up, peeps? It's Cece
and Johnny,
and welcome back to Cece's Jewel. So in today's video, we're going to be addressing everything that's going on in the nation, including the murder of George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement, how Johnny and I have been coping with everything, and how to push forward with this movement. I know it's been a while since we recorded a video, but obviously there have been other things going on in the world, and a YouTube video was the last thing on my list to do.
how are y'all? Right? How are you doing? We are growing and going through this with you. We don't want you to feel like we abandoned the movement with Cece's Jewel. However, we've been processing and living through real life justice, real life need for justice. And we just hope everyone is doing what they can do to keep themselves whole and healthy at this time. It's a tough time, but together we can get through it.
On May 25th, George Floyd was murdered by police officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I didn't watch the video. I haven't watched the video because it is a modern day lynching. I can't mentally process and I can't mentally watch these videos. Not only was George Floyd murdered, but Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery,
Nina Pop, and Tony McDade as well. Names that have fallen due to racial injustice, transphobia, but specifically folks who are holding marginalized identities and that connect with the Black community.
To put it in plain words, I am outraged. How many more Black bodies need to be slaughtered for everyone to get what's going on here? I see people on my timeline talking about, but this, but that. No, there's no buts. Black people are being murdered and we're not doing anything about it. We need more than justice, okay? They're saying second-degree murder. No, we need a first-degree murder charge.
We need systemic change. Since Black people have been in America, we have known nothing but struggle. We have known nothing but oppression. There needs to be a systemic uprooting of the injustices that affect Black people. Black people are on the lowest of lows when we think about equality, equity issues, etc. But when we think about rate of death from law enforcement,
we're at the top.
We are at the top or among the highest.
Yep.
And you can look at that and get those numbers. And if you know those numbers specifically, let us know. But I know for a fact that Black people are targeted specifically. It's sickening to think about. And through this process, one of the biggest challenges has been, right, seeing how desensitized people are, or how much of a commonality it has become for people to watch Black people die at the hands of others.
Anyone. Yeah.
It's a norm. It's the only thing that makes sense for me when I see people saying, oh, okay, this is just yet another, like this is supposed to happen, or it's a normal thing, or this is something, this always happens. Like, we are used to it. After George Floyd, it struck a nerve, but it also brought about some important conversations within the Black community, and it also illuminated some of the problematic people around us.
My Facebook friends are being cut short. I am blocking, I'm following people left and right. There's no but about this movement. There's no, oh, well this, oh, well that, oh, all lives matter. If I see an all lives matter on my timeline, you're automatically blocked. Blue lives matter. I'm sorry, cops wear their uniform 5 days out of the week. I am Black 24/7. Black people are being murdered. And if you don't care about that, that's not an issue to you, I don't need you in my timeline. I don't need you in my life, period. And if that isn't an issue to you, maybe you should think about why it's not an issue. Why don't you care about what's going on? We need to do some self-reflecting.
It's been becoming painfully obvious that people are accustomed to seeing Black people die, and that's okay. Or people convince themselves that Black people are killing each other. When we start talking about Black people dying at the hands of dominant groups, dominant institutions like law and things of that nature, and we come out with a movement like a Black Lives Matter.
If all lives matter, why don't Black lives matter? Why are you not angry about that?
Why are you using all lives matter to combat Black Lives Matter?
Like, we're not a part of all?
How does that make any sense? Let's make it simple for folks. Let's say this is a pie, and this is all lives. And this middle piece that's black is black lives. If the middle piece don't matter, and you say all lives matter, how does that make it? That can't be true, because we have a hole in the middle of all. When black lives don't matter, all lives cannot matter. Yeah. Using it to combat the Black Lives Matter movement as if black people are saying our lives matter more. Let's just think about it. Think about what people have asked for, right? When we think about underrepresented groups, some folks have said, we're looking for equality. The only thing we are asking for is to matter. Think about how simple that is. All we want to do is matter.
And you're telling us no.
That's a basic life principle.
Exactly.
It's just to matter. And if you're offended by that, you are the problem, not part of it. You are the problem. Yep. Those that have displayed that, we see you. Even with the Blue Lives Matter rhetoric, you're using that to combat us complaining about y'all killing us.
The Blue Lives Matter was made to mock the Black Lives Matter.
You did it. You literally did it. You did it as if we don't recognize the need, right, for the community to be served appropriately by law. We're talking about the inappropriateness of people dying at the hands of police officers for no reason.
But you're saying Blue Lives Matter.
But being black. One thing that has shown itself so obvious is how effective oppression operates. Oppression will allow you, as an oppressive, as a racist person, as a transphobic, homophobic, right, as a gender biased person, to make it up in your mind that you have to find some way to defend yourself when we say something about us. When we say something about us, that means we're saying something against you. Who told you that? Who taught you that? Black
Lives Matter doesn't mean we're against white people.
Nobody told you that.
It's not.
I've had to call out people, so many people. When I think particularly about white people, even though I hate making it a black and white thing, racism is much more complex than that, and it works. Yep. And it works more conniving than that. And it attacks and affects many people. But right now we're elevating black voices.
And you're saying
we're not going to say people of color, because the way it shows up is different for each of us.
Yep.
When we talk about black people, when we talk about how white people who cannot stand to be called out on things that they have birthed within them, they're offended. No one said white lives don't matter.
Pro-black don't mean you're anti-white. That's not what's happening here.
That's exactly. I want to know why do you think that?
Again,
who told
you need to do some self-reflection.
Who told you
that's what you think. If that's what you think,
I got to.
We need to break that down. We got to break it down.
I had to call out one of my old football coaches. He called protesters thugs.
That's another racist term, and nobody's understanding.
Now, you know who he got it from? He got it from the living corn chip, the living corn roll, the living crunchy curl. What we call him? The living Cheeto himself. 45. That's who we got it from. Now y'all out here calling people thugs and saying that black on black crime is the reason, if they just weren't so all of this negatively charged stereotypical rhetoric that you got from the news that white people run, that dominant groups run. Yep. And they are controlling those narratives.
They control the media. They literally control the media.
The narratives are being controlled by dominant groups anyhow, and y'all are taking that and running with it. Right. Even when, right, protesters aren't all identifying as black. But at the end of the day, when you see black people trying to fight back against systems that you are ignoring, I ain't gonna say you don't understand, because a lot of y'all do understand what's happening.
And they don't care.
But some of y'all act like you don't understand. You then try to come at the oppressed group rather than acknowledging the issues at hand. That is also diminishing and dismissing the lives that we have lost just in these past couple of weeks, and what we've been losing that has really caused the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement. Even before that, we can go take this to 16.
Let's go back to, right.
Y'all better read up Watch the 1619 Project. How ignorant can you be? For me, you're choosing to be ignorant.
Yeah.
It's a choice. When you have the privilege and the dominance and the power structures that you have set up for you and still not know, you don't want to know.
You don't want. I had a coworker the day after George Floyd was murdered wear a Blue Lives Matter shirt to work. It was my first day back to work. And she wore that shirt, and it took me all day to process that. I didn't say anything that entire day. I go back to work, and I confronted her about it. I said, why did you wear the Blue Lives Matter shirt the day after somebody was murdered by the hands of a police officer? And when I tell you this girl fumbled with her, no, you knew. You decided to be ignorant and wear the shirt instead. And I asked her, I said, do you think that blue lives matter more than black lives? No. Me and my boyfriend had to talk about it. I'm sure y'all did. But here's the thing. You chose to wear that shirt. You can tell me up and down to my face, swear up and down that you had no idea. No. It was on national news. I know you knew. So my supervisor, I said, we need to have a talk about this. Because when I confronted her, of course, I was looked at as starting workplace gossip and starting workplace drama. All I did was confront somebody. So when I told my supervisor I wanted to have a meeting with me and the other girl that wore the shirt, she said, oh, well, she doesn't want to have a meeting about it. Why don't she want to have a meeting about it? I wonder. Do you know she left work crying the day I confronted her? She stayed for 45 minutes and left crying white tears. And when I asked to have a meeting about this issue, she said, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm sure you are okay. But here's the thing. We need to have a meeting so I can call you out on your white privilege, on your white tears. Why it was so ignorant for you to wear that shirt on that day. You can tell me up and down that you didn't know. You knew. The fact that I had to be exposed to that, I should have gone home crying that day. But you know what? Not all people are against us. I want to say thank you to my allies, my white allies, for looking out in this time of need. Me and Johnny have really appreciated it. Like, y'all are important. Trust me. We are not overlooking y'all.
This is something that I think I might have said before on previous videos with us, just talking about things with relationships, right? This applies too, because allyship, accompliceship is a relational process. You have to omit good, bad rhetoric. This is why racism is so conniving and able to persist over time. This is why racism still exists today, even though we've had so many impactful moments historically to try to combat it. It's still here because we try to tie racism to bad people. When we think about racists, what does a racist look like when you think about it? Take some time to think about it, right? You have a visual in your mind to what a racist looks like. Even white people. Yeah. That's why they work so hard to say they're not racist, but to be in that middle place does not combat racism, right? Anti-racist combats race. That is the opposite of a racist.
Right now, it's not enough for you to not be racist. You need to be anti-racist.
It's not. Read up on it. We tie bad people, badness to racist. You can be my best friend, be white, and be racist. Yep. You could be a great person and be racist if you're not anti-racist. Yep. If you're not working actively to dismantle racism, then you are a part of the problem of racism.
And you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough.
Flat out. If you don't actively work against it, like you know it exists, and you make it about systems versus surface level, oh, this person called me a racist, right? That's surface level overt racism. I'm talking about the underlying, the undertones, the color evasive rhetoric, the colorblind ideologies, the racist policies, the racist laws, the racist procedures at your job, yep. The racist ground that you're walking on based off of the way this country was built. Yep. If you're not going to work through those things actively with me, you're not an ally. No. You're not an accomplice, and you're not a co-conspirator at all. So let's get out of good, bad. Now, let's just eliminate that from this day forward, because you heard it from Johnny and Cece. You heard it from Cece's Jewel. There's no such thing as good, bad. It's just racist. Yep. Racist and anti-racist. That's it.
And at this point, if you're not with us And for us, you are against that.
Against. Even racists can't stand to be called one. They don't think they are one. What dominant groups try to do when you are trying to paint pictures to show that racism exists is find ways that they don't identify with the pictures you're painting. That's why you have to make it larger than a me and you versus battle. It's not even about you, right? It's about the privilege that you inherited that was there before you was born. We are a product of our environment. If your grandparent was born in an environment where black people were not seen as human and they fell right into that socialized way of being, then they were racist. That was U.S. culture.
Yep.
The way we perceived what race was and is was racist. The way we perceived race was racist.
Yep.
Race was developed in hierarchy. That's racist. When we learned what white, black, Latinx, whatever, when we learned what that meant, when race was constructed, it was constructed and created where whites were here and everybody else was lower.
And that's exactly why people of color
Racism.
cannot be racist.
Well, none of us have the power to do what I just said.
Right. We can't be racist in a system that wasn't
Only
created for
dominant
us.
groups have that power.
So what we're trying to say is, if you haven't recognized racism exists in 2020 by now, where you been?
Black people, here's my advice to you. You are the one that I'm gonna lean on, because we have to lean on each other at this point. Do not allow your white counterparts to use you to go do their work. Do not allow them to come ask you how to deal with their racist family member or their racist friends.
Or how to recognize their white privilege when
Right.
they're a white male and they're asking a black woman how to recognize their white privilege. Don't do it. Resources exist. Google exists. Google Scholar exists. And if you follow Johnny and I on Facebook, Instagram, any of our social media platforms, there are tons of resources there for you. The days of black people trying to educate you are over. Unless you're paying us, okay? If you need a diversity and an inclusion session, book us.
However, black people, it is not your job. You are not required. And I need you to understand, in finishing the piece on good and bad rhetoric, some people that you really care about will manipulate that and not know. They might not even know that they're doing it, but they can.
You have to call that out.
You have to say, hey, you know what? I appreciate the intent, because well-intentioned people those can be very dangerous people when they hold dominant identities.
Yeah.
They can mean well all they want, but the impact of it is your mental health, your well-being, your peace of mind at your job, at CC's colleagues. I need y'all to know, I said what I said. She's not required to do anything in this regard for you. If it's not in the position description, then go somewhere else with your questions.
Or pay me for it. As the only black employee at my job, these times have been difficult. And that's why Johnny made the statement he did. I try to be nice. I really do. But at this point, I'm tired. And it's affecting my mental health, and I can't have that.
And when her mental health is affected, I'm affected. We are one. If you got a problem if she has a problem, then I have a problem. And that's that on that. Folks, I had left a message on CC's Facebook to let her colleagues know to stop, and her friends and her peers know to stop reaching out to her at this time, asking her to do racial justice work via Facebook inbox and Facebook Messenger.
Because
That's
you're not bold
okay.
enough to put it on my page. Of course not.
Among
you want to ask me in
the
private.
tons and tons of resources that CC publicly shares on her platforms, folks have chosen to message her in her messaging inbox to ask her questions about stuff that they should be doing. This, again, remove good, bad rhetoric. If you are offended, grill it up and eat it. Yep. If you got beef, I could care less. Here's what you need to know. You can have had the best intention and still have done a racist thing, or said a racist thing, or practiced racism. Because you know why? It's embedded into your history. So you're going to do it once or twice, or you're going to think it once or twice. Just like me being inflicted with it I am going to recognize it some way. I might not know all the theoretical terminology because everyone doesn't have the privilege of studying it like I've had the opportunity to do. But like Cece has shared, she doesn't study social justice, racial justice, but she knows what it feels like. Black people, you know what it feels like when you're being oppressed, racially oppressed and racially marginalized, because it doesn't feel good.
And it's a privilege to learn about racism and not actually have to experience.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be standing on the outside here asking the people that's dealing with it to help you learn about it. Yeah. Reparations. You will be paying us.
Yep.
And that's that.
40 acres and a mule, y'all. To wrap this video up, we said a lot, but you know what? It's a revolution.
And we said what we said.
And we're not sorry. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to our page. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. And we will see y'all next time.
Next time.